Heracles or Sun Wukong? Which of these two heroes of myth will win in the face-off? Hello, I'm Dr. Gwee Li Sui. Let us find the answer to that question. We need first to understand the different worlds in which these characters operate. Heracles may be better known today by his Roman name Hercules, but that is because the Romans had internalized Greek culture long before they conquered Greece in 2nd century BCE. In fact, ancient Greek stories were so influential that they went on to permeate the West, influencing Western thought and art up to our time. But the earliest Greeks had been Indo-Europeans, wanderers who passed through the Greek peninsula from 12th century BCE. By the time they settled around the Aegean Sea, they had picked up diverse beliefs and compounded them with their own, the most prominent being in Zeus, the sky god, as the father of all. These stories became codified in foundational literary works such as Homer's Iliad and Odyssey during classical antiquity. Collectively, the myths described a precarious world where human lives were caught between savage monsters and the whims of gods. At the power center were 12 mighty gods called the Olympians because they dwelt on Mount Olympus, an actual mountain in northern Greece. This group, led by Zeus with his wife Hera, operated as a council, but outside of management time, they were playful, lustful, spiteful, and guilt-ridden, just like humans. Their mingling with mortals produced a caste of half-breeds, the greatest of whom was Heracles. But historically speaking, this demigod could just be a real person, some great hunter who was accorded cult status upon his death. As heterogeneous was the world of Sun Wukong from Wu Chen'en's more recent 16th century novel CUC, or Journey to the West. Chinese mythology had by that time developed over millennia and was messy because it brought together ranging cultural elements. There were the regular folk stories from various places and beliefs from the three main religio-philosophical schools of Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. Thus, as far as a spiritual hierarchy of power goes, we find it at points understandably conflicting and unresolved. For instance, Tian, that Confucian notion of what morally compels us, could suggest heaven, some sky god, or Shangdi. At the same time, we see the great Taoist figure of Yu Huang, the Jade Emperor, a man turned god who rules as judicial authority over heaven, earth, and hell. This mixed view of the world beyond became more complex with the arrival of Buddhism in China in 1st century CE. After all, Buddhism taught the highest spiritual state to be nirvana. But from it came a Yan Wang, King Yan, and Long Wang, Dragon King, the Sanskrit being Yamaraja and Nagaraja respectively. Also Buddhists were figures such as the four heavenly kings, Si Da Tian Wang, and of course Guan Yin, the much beloved goddess of mercy. In Chinese mythology, as in Greek, mere mortals could become gods, although the lucky Western ones were usually already semi-divine. So the late Han Dynasty general Guan Yu could be elevated by his cult to a god of war, and the same happened to the legendary Song Dynasty Bao Zhen. Heracles was notoriously born from Zeus's rape of a married woman, Alcmene, which incurred the misplaced wrath of Hera. The goddess sent 2 giant snakes to kill him in his cradle, but baby Heracles crushed them both with his bare hands. She pursued her hate through his life and later inflicted him with temporary madness, during which time he slaughtered his wife and children. To atone for his horrific crimes, Heracles was instructed by the Oracle of Delphi to serve his loathsome cousin, King Eurystheus of Mycenae, for 10 years. Thus began the hero's most famous period, which was defined by his execution of 10 formidable tasks and then 2 more after his master announced 2 completions for having received help and gotten paid. This series of wondrous exploits, recounted in several classical texts, was recorded most fully in Pisander's now lost 7th century BCE poem, the Heracles. The 12 labors of Heracles, as they are known, are as follows: the slaying of the Nemean lion, the Lernaean hydra, and the Stymphalian birds, the cleaning in 1 day of the Augean stables, the capture of the Cyrenaean hind, the Erymantian boar, the Cretan bull, and Hades' guard dog Cerberus, and the taking of Diomedes' mares, Hippolytus' girdle, the giant Gerion's cattle, and 3 of the Hesperides' golden apples. By contrast, Siuchi draw from an actual Tang-era monk's 17-year journey to India to make better translations of Buddhist scripture. The novel incorporates many folk elements and takes massive creative liberty. For example, the Buddha personally commissions Tang Sanzang and sends him 3 demons who seek atonement as bodyguards. These great sinners are Wukong, Supachie, and Sang Wuji, and they are joined by a white horse who is really a dragon prince on a long journey plagued with run-ins with evil spirits and men. Among this band of misfits, Sun Wukong stands out as the most powerful and intelligent, and the most violent. He keeps getting chastised by Sanzang, who has to restrain him via a magical headband which can contract upon his chanting. All these disciplinary challenges are already hinted at in the novel's opening backstory. We are told of not just how powerful the Monkey King is, but also how he came to be trapped under a mountain where he was first found. Sun Wukong had been a great rebel, a forest demon on Huoguosan. He gained notoriety from a series of conflicts with other supernatural beings. He managed even to escape Yan Wang's clutches, and upon upsetting procedures in hell, went on to cause chaos in heaven. He disrupted the Jade Empress's banquet, ate all her peaches of immortality, and boldly named himself Great Sage equal to heaven, Qi Tian Da Shen. When Yu Huang himself could not stop the pesky monkey, the Buddha stepped in to subdue him for 500 years. So, who then should be deemed the greater of our 2 powerhouses? I must first remind us that violence ought not to be the way we personally deal with any problem ever. So if we are thus talking about a seismic clash here, we are considering not so much the amount of harm caused as physical strength and other worthy qualities such as intelligence and emotional maturity. Both Heracles and Wukong have obvious supernatural strength. Heracles may be more long-suffering, being patient with gods and unkind men alike, but he has beaten a lot of great monsters and opponents too. Wukong may fail to trounce the Buddha and can be tamed by a Mao monk's chanting, but he has vanquished gods and vast armies and shaken the very fabric of spiritual realms. Both our heroes are intelligent, or more correctly, clever. In his 5th labor, Heracles cleans Augeas' home for 3,000 cattle with poisonous manure by diverting 2 rivers to run through it. In his 11th labor, he was challenged by Antaeus, son of Earth herself, who cannot be defeated so long as he stays connected to the ground. Heracles holds him up and strangles him in the air. Wukong may be able to outplay Yan Wan and Yu Huang, but both the Buddha and Guan Yin can outwit him. The first uses his arrogance to expose his folly, while the latter seizes on his vanity to get him to wear the restraining headband. But the Monkey King overwhelms less by cunning than by chutzpah. This he lets loose by means of his magical powers and implements, manipulating the elements and manifesting 72 transformations. Every one of his simian hair can also transform. Wukong further wears impenetrable gold armor and cloud-walking boots and carries a resizable 8-ton staff. By contrast, Heracles has sheer might and protects himself with just the Nemean lion skin acquired from his first labor. His club may be normal, but his arrow tips are dipped in the Hydra's poisonous blood gained from his second labor. Wukong is arrogant, short-tempered, and unruly. He personifies the very Buddhist notion of the monkey mind. His story is therefore about becoming humble, temperate, and good. Heracles has always been this decent chap dealt a hard card, who then triumphs through mere will and hard work. He obeys without need for chastisement and seeks redemption even for wrongs he committed unconsciously, no thanks to gods. So as far as raw strength, cunning, self-control, and humanity go, Heracles wins. As far as power, range, audacity, fire, and eventually benevolence go, Wukong wins. Both show outstanding resolve to reform themselves. Both get a happy ending. The Greek achieves full divine status upon his death, reconciling with Hera and even marrying her daughter Hebe. The Chinese monkey, already immortal many times over, at the end of his long journey, attains Buddhahood. Turn 4. This is actually an apt tribute to his name. Wukong, he who awoke to emptiness, is at last enlightened. So who do you consider the greater mythic hero? I have my own happy opinion, as no doubt you do too.